Hello, everyone. My name's John Eddy from Roses in the Ocean. I'm the Safe Space Project Coordinator, and welcome and thank you for taking the time to watch this webinar for the community-led Safe Space community consultation process that we did at the Mariposa Trail site in Adelaide the other day. Thank you very much for the warm welcome for everyone from Adelaide. It was a fantastic opportunity to be over there. In recognition of the history, culture and wisdom of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we gather today. We recognise their deep and continuing connection with the land, water and community, and pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm coming to you from a place called Bustleton or Underlup on Bibbulmun Wundadi Noongar lands. We also always acknowledge people with a lived experience of suicide. We acknowledge all with a lived experience of suicide, those who have experienced suicidal thoughts, made an attempt on their life, cared for loved ones through a crisis, or been bereaved through suicide. We remember those we have lost to suicide. I'm actually recording this webinar today on World Suicide Prevention Day, and it's a significant day for obvious reasons. Right, we'll start off. So, what is a safe space? What a safe space is a drop-in style support for people experiencing significant emotional distress or suicidal crisis that provide warm, welcoming environments in which to reduce that distress. It's an innovative new service model. It was developed in recognition of the fact that, places such as EDs and emergency departments are not the best fit for people in emotional pain and distress. They do not address the broad range of situational and social stresses that lead to people coming into suicidal crisis. Safe spaces are typically staffed by peer workers with their own lived experience of crisis, who connect with others through the mutual understanding that comes with the meaningful and shared experience. There's a lot of evidence coming out now that the true therapeutic value in promoting hope and healing from these spaces, they work. What's the difference? What is a community-led safe space? So it's community designed, managed and staffed. So it's run by the community for the community. It's a non-clinical space. It's it could be using a shared space such as a cafe or a hall, or something that's available for your community to use it as a safe space. It's for people experiencing emotional distress and suicidal crisis. It's peer-led by suicide prevention peer volunteers with their own lived experience of suicidal crisis, called peer care companions. Peer care companions receive specialised training, suicide intervention skills training, and they can attend group co-reflection sessions and also attend regular community practice meetings. So it's all part of the training and an ongoing process. There's always a minimum of 2 peer care companions rostered on at your community-led safe space at all times, and that's for obvious reasons, for safety and for support. The safe space has a no wrong door approach, so it has strong connections in and out of this for the safe space, in and out of the community, to support people, just let them decide what would be helpful for them, and it's open for people of all ages. It's a risk tolerant space, and it's honouring self-determination. This process today, it's a part of a bigger process. So as I said, the initial community consultation took place a few weeks ago in Adelaide with some members of the community and also some of the Mariposa Trails team. The information we gathered from that session will be given to you today in this webinar. Then the webinar and also a survey will be sent out to people who attended and also to the wider community. Once we get that information back, we will collate it and then present it back to the working group for Mariposa Trails to implement a service model with the information gathered from the community. So it's a little bit of a staged process, and it'll help Mariposa Trails develop the community-led safe space to suit their community. So, okay, so what communities have told us they want from a safe space? So here are the 7 key components of a safe space. I'm sure some of you have seen this graphic before. It's very helpful. So number 1, trauma-informed, no wrong door approach. No wrong door. This means to ensure all guests are welcome and able to access the holistic support from a capable suicide prevention peer workforce within the space. Non-clinical support that meets the holistic needs of guests. Provision of a non-clinical support that aims to respond to the needs of people experiencing emotional distress or suicidal thoughts and behaviours, and it's to reduce their distress in a safe, warm, welcoming environment. Reflecting the principles of a community-led safe space, guests have the autonomy to identify their needs at their own pace and to engage in activities that they determine with the support of a suicide prevention peer volunteer. Compassionate and capable peer-led workforce. A compassionate and capable peer-led workforce comprising of people with their own lived experience of suicide is fundamental to the community-led safe space, model. Considerations for the staffing mix within the community-led safe space include the nature of someone's lived experience, the values, attributes they hold, as well as their cultural diversity. So all important factors to consider. A safe and accessible location. Location includes the physical building and and the venue itself, as well as other factors such as geographical location and proximity to other services. Opening hours, days, and historical context of the building. Perhaps the building's history can upset people. These are important things to consider. Just discreet access was highlighted as particularly important and for confidentiality reasons, and allowing people to come in if they need to without feeling like they're under the spotlight. A warm, welcoming environment. This relates to the configuration of and layout of the physical space itself. It's it's got to follow up with the supports within their community relevant to their needs and providing follow-up upon leaving the space. This recognises the principle that a community-led safe space is available for people to take their time and attend as often as they need, while also being a source of an appropriate and reliable support. Shared governance and management. Governance is shared amongst people with the lived experience of suicide. It also involves managing the space in a way that ensures the safety, quality, and effectiveness of the people of the support provided, while honouring the values and principles identified by people with the lived experience. So keeping it together and listening to the people coming in and adjusting as needed. It's really important. The process of the community consultation workshop we did essentially involved asking 4 key questions of the participants. So these are the answers we got back from those 4 questions. So the first question is practical and physical. For example, what the location is, where the location is, the hours it's opening, the space, getting there, accessibility. So key questions such as that. The venue and the location. So the team at Mariposa Trails essentially have 2 spaces already rented and available. So that's sort of determined at the moment, but it can be ongoing. Hours of operation, again, it's determined by the availability of the venues that have been open. Rosters. So it's, there's a real clear need to have roles and expectations outlined during the rostered times. The space and environment, it's got to be warm and welcoming, not physical, not cold, and not physically cold like a ED, I guess. So continuing on, identifying our needs. So what the guest would experience. For example, what do people experience when they arrive and leave? What activities might be available for the guests, also for their carer and supports, and what information would be available. Experience. We will name people as community members, so that it's clearly ID'd that the volunteers are actually part of the community. There'll be people to greet people with a nice welcoming gesture with your hand. Invite them in to have a tea or a cup of coffee. Music comes up time and time again at just about every site, and ask the guests what music they would like to have. Ongoing companionship. We need to remember that our priorities are the guests and the community members. It's important that we're not huddling in the kitchen and talking in groups. I guess making people feel welcome and not excluded. You're not talking about money or attracting clients. This is not a business opportunity, and absolutely, it's all about the guest and providing that support. It's got to be warm and welcoming, and the volunteers providing happy actions. Some of the activities discussed could be varying activities. Look for people in the community that can run these activities. Activities need to be varied and not the same each week. Keep it interesting. Not always Latino focused. It was acknowledged that this was the current expertise reflected in the group. So Mariposa Trails is Latino based, but the safe space is open for the whole community. Expert-led activities, so you could change it up and have an expert come in and lead something, for the wider community, especially if the unusual people are not available. Through an understanding of cultural responsiveness and trauma-informed approaches, it's necessary for any new community activity experts. Perhaps an information session prior to the engagement is required so that leaders of the activities are aware of the values and principles of the safe space. Yeah, absolutely. Make sure they know what you're about before you invite anyone in. Providing art, music, yoga, breathing techniques, and aromatherapy, all extremely important and fantastic ideas. Identifying the needs. So again, experience for the guests further. So what food and drink. Food and drink is a great icebreaker, isn't it? Coffee, tea, and water available. Perhaps even a decaf coffee if people are feeling distressed could be better. Music. Asking the guests what sort of music they like. Perhaps even providing live music every now and then would be fantastic. Support. Have sensitivity, solidarity, and show some humbleness. So have clear, defined roles in the safe space. Providing a letterbox of emotions so people can provide their thoughts into that, and that flows into perhaps a suggestion box. Facilitators that understand the project. So again, coming back to those key principles and values. So everyone is understanding what the safe space is about and what it's trying to do. Who feels reflected, and then are their needs being met? So keep revisiting the guests and the volunteers. Connections and pathways. For example, connections in and out of the safe space. How do people find out about the service in the community? Who needs to find out about the service in the community so they know it's there? Connections, how would people find out about it? It's, getting it onto community radio and media. Word of mouth. People are going to talk to each other and say, wow, this place is amazing and help so-and-so. So word of mouth is really important. Services and organisations, linking up with the other safe havens and other safe spaces, contacting Relationships Australia and Latin American organisations, STARS. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what STARS is, but we'll have to explore what that one is, and getting the service into psychologists so they're aware of what you're doing. Promoting it through flyers and newspaper ads, promotional campaigns, launching a website, social media campaigns, getting it out onto WhatsApp and Latin American Facebook groups. Existing faith networks, which is, of course, it's a great option. Pathways into aftercare. It's so important to explore options for people after they come in and keep the help going. Getting some presentations into the GPs, contacting all the ones close to the safe space and finding someone who's on board with you and helping each other out. 7 Spanish-speaking allied health workers. So I'm assuming that's an organisation close to where you guys are operating, and providing an up-to-date, very, very up-to-date directory of services available. It's really important to have this, and it's key and fundamental to a safe space to have those services listed and everyone understanding what's available to share with the guests. Connections with the community. Who needs to know about the service? International students could really benefit from it. Refugees and migrants on working visas, people with emotional problems, multicultural organisations and networks, Spanish-speaking workers, engaging the entire community. I think that's really important because it is a community-led safe space. People interested in improving their own mental health, people who have suffered traumatic experiences, and multicultural and local communities. The last question we posed to the people who attended was cultural considerations. For example, what does the fabric of your community look like? Who needs to be engaged? And how do you ensure it's a welcoming and inclusive space for everyone? So some of the considerations are it's an appreciation of cultural diversities and identities. So I guess it's for the volunteers having a bit of ongoing training for them. Understanding intersectionalities of trauma and distress, and assumed that these can be caused by the consequences of the experience of migration. Bilingual, cross-cultural, multicultural, using the terminologies. So as noted here, cross-cultural is a term that's preferred. So coming back to the guests and the volunteers, to what language they prefer to use. Displaying humility and humble sensitivity and solidarity attributes is really important too. Tactile community that openly touches and hugs each other. I know I'm a bit of a hugger, and it's important to, I guess, ask permission of people before we touch them. Gender and religious intersectionalities. Yeah, it's got to be explored. You've got to provide what the guests are needing, and you know, if there's considerations around that, these things need to be explored. For example, maybe a Muslim woman who comes in distress can only speak to another woman. And I know our First Nations people have similar concerns sometimes with the right people to talk to them. Cultural engagement, so connecting outside with the multicultural community. Multicultural professionals can be invited in, finding multicultural doctors and psychologists and teachers to come in and to talk to you, and also to let them know what the service is. For information, again, we come back to the service directory, and perhaps having it in English and Spanish for all community members. Having a physical version and an online version. And I think that's a brilliant idea, because not everyone is able to access digital technology easily. Pardon me. Training, more training required to be supportive from Roses in the Ocean's principles. So making sure everyone understands what the principles and values are, not just Roses in the Ocean, but also what your community-led safe space principles and values are. And, you know, exploring cultural sensitivity training. So yeah, there's some great ideas there to explore, and I'm sure they will be expanded on. The last part of the community consultation process on the day was we explored the values of your community-led safe space. So what is your internal compass? There was a heap of fantastic ideas put up, and we'll list them here shortly. And we would really like the Mariposa Trails team to explore what the 6 key values are. So this is what was listed: you know, non-judgmental, avoiding shame, acceptance and self and of self and others. And look, a lot of these actually cross over with the values and principles of the community-led safe space, which is always great to see. Affirmation, compassion, strengths focused when helping guests to notice someone else's strengths can be life-saving. Absolutely. Self-determination, cultural connection, listening without prejudice, you know, being vulnerable. We're all human beings here, so there's no crime in being vulnerable. Credibility and trustworthiness, you know, really important. Understanding appropriate boundaries and the environment. Boundaries are very, very important as well. Collaboration, empathy, respect, dignity, human dignity, confidence. You know, we need to back up what we say and do, of course. Diversity, cultural awareness, inclusion, confidentiality, empowerment, community wisdom, assertive communication without violence. We would hope everything's without violence. There's some non-negotiables of the community-led safe space, and they are, so again, it comes back to our values and principles. So you know, inclusion, no one's ever turned away, so the no wrong door approach. Acceptance, safety, you know, caring, collaboration, and the minimum of 2 peer care companions rostered on at any one time. And so many of those cross back into your own values that were put up on the day of the workshop. And as we said, the next steps. So we're doing the webinar now, and which you'll be watching along with the survey. And we want you to fill out as much information and get it all back to us, so we can get all this information back to the amazing guys at Mariposa Trails Community-Led Safe Space and help set up the safe space for your community. The survey will kick off around the 17th of September, so there's a bit of time ahead of us. And thank you everyone for watching this webinar, and we really look forward to getting all the results back, and thank you very much for your time. Bye.